Based on what the Cubs traded away for starting pitching today, does that bode well if the Milwaukee Brewers want to trade Freddy Peralta? We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Chuck Freimund, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, proud host of Locked On Brewers. Also, the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network in the world. Coming up on the show, Dr. Baumgardt's going to join us. We're talking about the coaching staff, some of the moves that were made, what's going on in the offseason. Yes, Freddy Peralta has the ante moved up on him at all with this Cubs deal. We'll talk about that. And who is going to have the breakout season for the Milwaukee Brewers? This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's number one sports book. Wild card round is here. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Visit FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Grab your profit boost pack every NFL game day from FanDuel. All right, right to the top. I want to set the record straight on something. Now, the Milwaukee Brewers made coaching changes on Monday. And I came on the podcast on Monday and I said, wow, it seems kind of late that it's here the first week of January and the Brewers are waiting this long to make a move on the coaching staff. You would think that would have been done right after the season. Well, since spring training is right around the corner, the Brewers have informed me that the moves were actually made a long time ago, several weeks ago, but they announced it on Monday. So it wasn't like they left the coaches twisting in the wind, because that would have been odd, right? Had they told the coaches on January 1st or so, January 5th, well, yeah, you're not coming back. So apparently they did know. The Brewers reached out to them, reached out to me, and I said, okay, very good. Brewers media relations staff, these guys, tireless workers. I got a great relationship with these guys, always have, always will. They reached out to me. They do, in fact, media relations people work a tireless, thankless shift, man. These guys work countless hours. I'll say that right off the top. But they did reach out to me and say, the moves were made some time ago. We just announced it this first week of January. So if that's all clear, again, the moves made at an earlier date, announced earlier. So just wanted to clear that up, that the Brewers didn't do anything wrong there, didn't leave anybody twisting in the wind. Their fate, whatever moves the Brewers made as far as the coaching staff and who got reassigned and all that and who got hired, that was all known a long time ago. All right. Also, earlier this week, I learned that Hunter Baumgardt was going to join me today here on Locked On Brewers.
Good to be back, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
I just checked the log here. I haven't had you on since the end of October, when the season came to an end. How you doing so far? And this off season so far, I think like as much around Major League Baseball, it's moving at a snail's pace.
It is. It really is for everybody. Kyle Tucker is still out there. I just realized that today. I'm like, who else is still? He's still out there. Other big names still out there. Trade today, the Cubs acquiring a pitcher from the Marlins. I'm sure we'll get to that. So it's slowly but surely happening, and these guys are going to have to sign sooner rather than later. We're just over a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting, which the baseball offseason goes so fast, and that's why we love baseball, because it's almost year round.
Hunter Baumgardt, Brewers insider for iHeartRadio and the Game Network. Great to have him, friend and contributor with me. Get him on, from time to time. We talk Brewers baseball, getting him on perfect time since we haven't talked to him in a couple of months. He spot the Cabrera trade. Brewers, the Cubs got him from Miami. Cubs gave up 3 pretty good prospects, including someone who might be could have been their starting right fielder come April. I look at this too, that if it costs the Cubs that much in prospects for Cabrera, what is the price tag then on Freddy Peralta?
Big. I mean, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic said yesterday that he could demand a bigger haul than Corbin Burnes did. Of course, Corbin Burnes, Joey Ortiz, DL Hall, and also a draft pick. You wonder if Freddy Peralta could get even more than that. And how do you quantify that, right? Joey Ortiz, the book is still out. Sounds like he's going to probably be their shortstop into 2026, but obviously exceptional defensively, struggled offensively. We'll see. DL Hall, I feel like we've still not gotten a total handle on him due to the fact of the injuries. So, and then, and the draft pick, you'll have to wait and see. But today's trade, that is quite a haul for Edward Cabrera. And Cabrera is a really good pitcher, but I also think Owen Casey's a prized prospect when it comes to the Chicago Cubs. We saw him a little bit in the majors last year, so he's made his debut and could have started, in the outfield for the Cubs and been a key factor on that team. A trade for Freddy Peralta would demand a lot. I still am sticking to, I don't want them to do it because they're a contender right now, and I think it makes the most sense to contend in 2026 and have Freddy Peralta leading your pitching staff again.
I'm with you on that. But when I saw the Cabrera trade today and the 3 guys that the Cubs gave up, if Arnold gets an offer he can't refuse, how can he not do it? Right? I mean, right? I mean, if someone's going to overpay, and in this case, the Cubs, I think, are in a little bit of a desperate mode because they keep looking north and they see the Brewers,
yes,
all right, winning division title after division title. And there's got to be like another team like the Mets who would be willing to give up some prospects, big time prospects.
You'd think, and you're right about the Cubs. I mean, they're in win now as win now gets, right? They're trying to spend more money. They're making acquisitions. Clearly, this was kind of that last piece of the puzzle, kind of that rotation. They got a really formidable rotation in Chicago right now, and of course, they got the highest paid manager as well. So they got to take advantage of that. And the front office has to put the players on the field, to be successful. So that all makes sense and makes sense for the Cubs to act like a big market team, something they necessarily haven't done as much as we'd expect, or as much as the New Yorks or the LAs have done, where you just constantly go for it. We haven't really seen that from the Cubs, which has been puzzling at times. When it comes to Matt Arnold, I agree where, look, the market size, everything, we all know what the Brewers situation is. So at some point you have to make sure you're making a decision that is going to impact the future in a really good way. For 2028 and 2029, is it best to trade Freddy Peralta now? Yes. But do you also have a really good baseball team that finished in the Final Four of Major League Baseball last year? Yes. So as much as you want to play for 28, 29, you kind of got to go for 20. I mean, look, you have the 2-time reigning manager of the year right now. You've got Brandon Woodruff coming back. I just think this team is really set up, and another year with those young guys who can come into their own in 2026, even more than we've seen, who are, Chourio, Frelick, Turang, name them all. Mm-hmm. But I just think keep Freddy Peralta unless there's some unbelievable offer that he gets from one of these huge teams.
Or could you do this with Freddy? Could you think this way? Freddy had just an unbelievable year, and was it either a breakout year or was it just having one of those career years and you sell high, right?
Totally. That's why it's so tempting to do it right now, because he's going to demand so much. I mean, like you said, if Edward Cabrera demanded that from the Cubs today, imagine what Freddy Peralta, and it's hard to put into like exact terms. You would get the number blah, blah, blah prospect or the blah, it's hard to do that necessarily, but it would be a significant return, obviously. And you say, well, he had a really, he's been really healthy. He's due, just because pitchers get hurt at times, he's probably due to have an injury a time or two. I'm not obviously wishing that at all. And I have no predictors that would happen at all, but I just, just by chance, that might be the case. So there's arguments to be made of why you would get rid of him a year early. But with that $8 million right now, it's an absolute bargain. You kind of build around him like you were able, if Freddy Peralta wasn't being paid $8 million, Brandon Woodruff probably wouldn't have been able to be on this roster. But because he's such a bargain, you get another number 2 guy in Woody, and then all those pitchers, the young guys behind him. It seems tempting.
Boy, now that you mentioned it, Woody's going to make nearly 3 times as much as Freddie.
Yeah.
No, Freddie, Matt. He knows.
Oh, yeah. And Brandon Woodruff is, he's earned everything he's going to make, and I'm so glad he's back. It gives you such a 1-2 punch there. And fascinating to see what the rest of that rotation does as well. You talk about the Cubs, being formidable. Brewers have like 8 or 9 options that I'm good with being in that starting 5, come late March, early April.
Well, that's it. Because you and I both want to see Freddie back. Freddie's great to deal with as far as in the media and the locker room, and he's terrific on the mound as well. Great clubhouse guy. But there's so many guys that could vie for spots in this rotation. Everybody moves up one, really.
Yeah, that's another argument towards trading him. And that's probably why if you look from, the 30,000-foot view, that Ken Rosenthal, the Athletic, was mentioning yesterday that he expects Freddy Peralta to be traded before the season starts. If you look at it from that view, there's a lot of arguments to be made to trade him. I mean, like you said, they have depth in the starting rotation. It's not like they're taking away from a spot that they don't have depth in, right? They have guys that can probably fill that. Now, can they fill it like Freddy Peralta can? That's a big question mark because, like you said, Freddy Peralta is a leader. He's the ace of the staff. Guys look up to him. He's been there, done that, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason as well. When these guys are trying to still kind of gain their footing and gain whatever they can for 2026 and get more experience under their belt, all of that can't necessarily be made up by a guy like whoever named Chad Patrick, Jacob Mizorowski, whoever, Logan Henderson, right? It can't just step into that. There's going to be some more growing pains than there probably would be, obviously, with Freddy Peralta.
HB, hang on for a second. We come back. Coaching staff moves. We touched on a little bit, that whole podcast the other day on it. We'll get HB's opinion on a ton of moves. We won't go over every move, but we'll have an overview of it because the Brewers made a ton of moves earlier in the week. And, of course, go back to that podcast on Monday, and we talked about that. Check Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The wild card round is here. FanDuel officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel giving customers more ways to get in on all the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack on FanDuel, and it's waiting for them right inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts. You can apply the bets that you like the most. Open the profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what's there waiting for you. But you got to download the app. Visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go for even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So on FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the NFL. Check Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Hit us up on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your audio podcast. We're the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet. And of course, our YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Hunter Baumgardt, Brewers insider from the Game Network, and doing that for a few years right now. Enjoy covering games with HB as we're getting ready for 2026. Hunter, these coaching moves that dropped on Monday, as I said at the top, the Brewers did make these moves several months ago, announced the moves earlier in the week. What in there stood out to you?
Just a major reshuffling. I mean, obviously you knew there was going to be some moving parts with Ricky Weeks going to the front office, and how are they going to make up for that bench role, right? That associate manager that Ricky Weeks was. And how are they going to make that up? Was it going to be just back to the traditional bench coach? Well, no. I mean, they don't have a designated either associate manager or bench coach. You could argue that, whoever it could be Jim Henderson, it could be Jason Lane, the big question, if and or when Pat Murphy is ejected this season, who would be the manager? And I don't necessarily know the answer to that question. I'm sure we'll know that as the season goes on, but so that stuck out to me, that it was just kind of a very much a reshuffling of the deck. Julio Bourbon and Al LaBeouf no longer part of the staff. Connor Dawson, lead hitting coach, goes to Kansas City. That's a significant loss, and he's going to a place he's, kind of familiar with and more so. That's why he went there. But when it comes to, Matt Erickson going to third base, Jason Lane doing more of a, kind of a coordinator role. You have two newcomers, Guillermo Martinez and Daniel Vogelbach, a familiar name, coming in as hitting coaches. So Spencer Allen at first. You have a lot of moving parts, and I'm excited to see what the new faces bring. But I'm also excited to see how maybe these other guys contribute in different roles, right? Jim Henderson kind of seeing things from, more of a 30,000 foot view maybe, or as Matt Arnold put recently, like working more hand in hand with Pat Murphy. How does that adjust things? Why did the Brewers, lose in that NLCS to the Dodgers? It was hitting, right? So now they have a couple different guys on that staff, some different voices, different strategies. They were good offensively overall last season, definitely in the regular season, and you don't want to lose Connor Dawson. But you, I think, look at it and say, okay, where are the areas we can improve? And maybe that's what they saw in a guy like Vogie. As Christian Yelich put it in his tweet, said, "Welcome back, Vogie." I think people are going to be excited to him because he's just out of the league, and I think people can relate to him.
Yeah, and Murphy, he's arranging things. It seems to me like how he wants him, and he's earned that right. The guy's a two-time manager of the year. He's great in every aspect. I want him here long term, and I think he wants to stay too. I mean, the guy is. Done a heck of a job in 2 seasons, his first 2 years on the job, and to win a manager of the year award in your first 2 seasons and to do what he's did with this ball club so far. He's earned carte blanche, I feel, to do a lot of things on his own now.
Oh, absolutely. And whether that, I know Matt Arnold was the one kind of talking about the changes. I know he's heavily involved in that as well. Like you just trust them. You trust that they're putting guys in good positions, and you wonder, like, I'm intrigued when they move a guy like Spencer Allen, right? Who is the director of player development, quickly rising, very respected around the league as well. Like, this is a guy who was the head coach of Northwestern for a long time, quickly moving up. They're like, you know what, let's get this guy in the major league staff, have him coach first base. And I'm fascinated to see how he can rise, and if he's going to be possibly the guy that other teams look at, right? That this is what the Brewers staff has done. And they've been able to, what I've been impressed with the Brewers is they've been able to keep these guys, right? Keep Chris Hook for his 8th, MLB season on the MLB staff coming up, and keep Jason Lane and all these guys, Matt Erickson, who's done a phenomenal job with that infield and will continue to with his new role at third base. So, and I'm excited to see what Spencer Allen can do and how they are able to bring these guys along, keep them in-house. Obviously, clearly, it's a good culture. They want to be here. They want to stay here. Jim Henderson, another example of that, where they stay in Milwaukee, and work for Pat Murphy in a really good atmosphere, and an atmosphere that obviously clearly leads to winning. And I'm excited to see how, like, a guy like Spencer Allen is kind of the next, possibly, whether it be Chris Hook or Matt Erickson, kind of that next guy to maybe stay here for a little while, or if he's that respected around the league, maybe start to get attention elsewhere too.
I expected other teams to come in and raid some of our good front office people, because I thought some of these owners around the league would look at it and they say, the Milwaukee Brewers, how are they doing that on that payroll? How come they're winning every year? How come they're in first place every year and we're spending all this money? What are those guys doing over there? Let's go get some of their guys and bring them back over here. I don't know, but the Brewers are keeping a lot of those guys.
They are. And
every hours.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, they have been able to keep these guys on staff and keep these guys rolling and keep the continuity there as well. And that is significant. Now, you say, well, yeah, but they also brought in a few new guys. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love, is it's a mix of the core guys, right? The Chris Hook, who has done just wonderful. Jim Henderson, the guys who have done phenomenal work with those pitchers. Mm-hmm. It's Matt Erickson, who's done a great job defensively, now getting that promotion, getting to coach third base. But then you also have the new guys, right? The Spencer Allen, the Guillermo Martinez, the Daniel Vogelbach, for some new eyes, and they're not afraid to do that either, right? Julio Barbone, Al LaBeouf, they've been reassigned within the organization, not sure exactly in what ways, but they've been reassigned. So when it comes down to that, you say, okay, they're not afraid to make a few changes if they see that need be. Obviously, Ricky Weeks leaves a hole, or last year Quentin Berry leaves a hole, right? So they're forced to make some changes. But what they're able to do is bring in some fresh, ideas, but also have that core of what has led to their success.
Hunter, hang on. When we get back, I'm going to ask you, who's going to have a breakout season for the Milwaukee Brewers? Give me a couple of guys. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. The Everydayer Club just started this in December. The Everydayer Club. Thanks for making Locked On Brewers your first listen to every day. Thousands of people tune in to Locked On Brewers every day, even here in the offseason. I hear from you guys, and you've asked me about, hey, can we get ad-free audio on Locked On Brewers? Yes, you can by joining the Everydayer Club. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major podcast apps out there. It's all there for you. And it's available once you become a member of the Everydayer Club. Also, the Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. And there's so much more involved in the Everydayer Club. I got the link right below. And whether you're downloading the podcast in the notes section down below or on YouTube, the notes section below, tell you everything you need to know about the Everydayer Club. But check it out. Find the link below, click it on, and see if it's for you. Locked On Brewers will always be free, but this is something extra special, the Everydayer Club. Check it out. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Our guest is Hunter Baumgardt from, he's the, I almost said the other radio station. He's the Game Network Brewers Insider joining us here on Locked On Brewers. It's been a busy winter, Hunter. Hunter, what do you think is going to make that next leap up and have a breakout year for the Brewers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I still, and I'm really glad that it sounds like they're going to go into 2026 with Joey Ortiz at shortstop because of how good he is defensively. Mm-hmm. We've seen, not be it for long stretches yet, but we've seen flashes at times offensively. I just want to see if he can be. It doesn't need to be obviously the Willy Adames production offensively. But if he can be middle of the pack, back to, near average of the league, even a little below average, just not well below average, I think they have something there at shortstop, and I don't want them to give up quite yet. Now, if 2026 goes a lot like 2025 offensively, I get it. Then you think about it, and obviously you have guys coming up eventually that will be here, the Jesus Mates of the world, right, when they're ready, and eventually that might be the case. But before then, I think you have an opportunity here to see what you got and to give him, one more opportunity, so to speak. And I think he could do better offensively than we saw in 2025. I gotta think there's more in there.
Boy, I wish I felt as good about it as you did. And when 2 seasons ago, when he was the player of the month for May, I thought, okay, wow.
Yeah.
And just never really built on that. And the numbers weren't that good this year. Now, I feel like he should be up for Gold Glove as far as a shortstop. Yeah. Defensively, the guy's amazing. Because every time I see him make a play at shortstop, I forget about how bad he could be at the plate because he's amazing with the glove. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know if there's any more there with him as far as offense.
There might not be. I'd totally be willing to admit that. But I want to see it a little more. Now, if you get half a season in and it's still the same, yeah, and it depends on where you are and what you're competing for and everything like that. You hope that obviously the Brewers are in contention at that point. Okay, then if you need to make a move, split time, whatever it happens to be, play Monasterio or whoever is the backup at that time, sure, play a little more. But there's guys over the years who aren't great on defense, but they're obviously maybe that you say, okay, we'll give up a little defense for the offense they provide. That's Joey in the opposite way, right? Like you have to at least, give him a little more opportunity because he's so good at defense. If he was an average defender, I think they'd be probably moved on by now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so major league. Defense is saving him. The defense is saving him a spot on the major league roster.
That's exactly it. So, and I think it will for a little more time. Now they're not going to get, I don't think it's a years and years type of thing. But I do want to see what he can do. Do I think he's going to have a breakout year? I'm not sure, but I do think it's going to be improved. And I'm eager to see how much improvement we see from Joey.
Well, you kind of said at the top, they're so stacked in the minor league system at that side, the left side of the infield, Mate in particular, Pena, Pratt, you could say, all three of those guys. So I don't know. I still have a gut feeling Ortiz could be part of a package deal. My breakout year for a guy is going to be Jackson Chourio. Now, I'm not complaining about the last 2 years, but I think the window of opportunity for him and that ceiling is still, he has not gotten there just yet. And I feel that guy is still has an upside to him of greatness. Yeah, he's put up some big numbers. He's been clutch. He's been terrific. Moved him to center field, and I thought he's played that splendidly for a guy who had not played there much recently, except for the minor leagues. But I think, Hunter, there is more there with Chourio, not only defensively, but at the plate. I think he's going to hit 30, 35 home runs this year.
I am with you. The other guy that came to my mind when you asked me that was definitely Jackson Chourio. Like you said, it's not, a knock on what he's done the last 2 years. The last 2 years would be great for a lot of players in Major League Baseball, but he's got more in there. And we both know it. Jackson Chourio knows it. What's that?
I think he can be an MVP candidate.
Yes. And there's a reason he's continuing to be, put on, posters that MLB puts out, right? I mean, he is that stardom type of guy. He's obviously, like you said, proved it in the postseason with the clutch home runs and everything like that. I just remember, I go back to that game in Toronto when he came off the IL and hit one that got robbed and then, hit one out later. Like that is the type of thing a star does. And I feel like especially if he can stay healthy, 30, 35 home runs is more than realistic for him. And just that constant on base, steal a base, that constant running around the bases, double, triple, whatever it happens to be. And then, like you said, improve on the defensive side too. I think we've already seen, strides and improvements on the defensive side since he's been in the majors. And I do think that coming into 2026, you're going to see still even more and more defensive improvement. And I'm excited because he is just, he is one of those players that I think is like, you're just starting that window because of how young he started in the major leagues. Like you're just starting that window of, okay, his prime probably isn't still for another couple of years. Sure. And let's see what he can do in 2026.
And there's other guys. I think Turang is going to continue to get better and better. Frelick is, Durbin is, and I'm just talking about the offensive guys right now. But I think and that's the beauty of this. And I've said this to the Brewers. They're winning, they're competing, and they're developing guys. And that's a great, great spot. Not many teams can be in that spot, but the Brewers are definitely. So, HB, great talking to you. From the Game Network, Brewers Insider. Let's catch up. How about, maybe around spring training or so? Can we do that?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I can't believe it's not too far away as we sit
next
here.
Month.
Yes, can't wait. Thanks for having me.
I think it's like the week after the Super Bowl. It might be the week of the Super Bowl. And the playoffs are starting this week.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, bring it on.
It'll be here quick. I agree. HB, thanks a lot. That's Hunter Baumgardt joining us from the Game Network, Brewers Insider. This is Chuck Freimund. Thanks for making us your first listen to every day here on Locked On Brewers. And remember that Everydayer Club, as I was telling you about, the Everydayer Club, you get the ad-free Locked On Brewers every day on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major apps, the Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server. Check it out in the link below in the notes section. Wherever you get this podcast, there's a notes section down below. I got a link down there, and that'll tell you all the amenities you get with being a member of the Everydayer Club. Chuck Freimund, thanks for making us your first listen to on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.